Let's move to Bucs Packers as we talk about these Bucs here, Jay. Baker Mayfield, 4 touchdowns. Joe Barry's Green Bay defense, I mean, a kind of a laughing stock in this one. Let's just call it like it is. The Bucs go absolutely wild against this Packers team that felt like a couple weeks ago we were like, wow, look at the Packers' schedule. They
no one wants to play the Packers in the playoffs.
Now everybody wants to play the Packers during the regular season.
I'd love to play the Packers in the playoffs, and they're not going to be making the playoffs, I suspect, after this absolute debacle. And look, the story will be the Tampa Bay offense and Baker Mayfield having a perfect passer rating in Lambeau. The Bucs are now clear favorites to win the NFC South. Huge day for Chris Godwin, who's had somewhat of an underwhelming season, but he's broken out in a big way, goes 10 for 155. The fact they're able to do this as well, just Mike Evans having 4 receptions.
Can you just stop for 1 second here and just marvel at this? Look at this, the Week 15 fantasy playoffs, fantasy leaders at quarterback. Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Aiden O'Connell, Brock Purdy, Gardner Minshew, Derek Carr, Jake Browning. It's not until quarterback 8, Lamar Jackson, do you get to any quarterback that was drafted anywhere close to the top 10, Stafford and Russell Wilson. Jackson's the only guy that went inside the top 5, and in fact, I think none of these guys were drafted inside the top 12 among quarterbacks.
Goff would have been the highest.
Browning, Minshew, Purdy, O'Connell, Mayfield weren't drafted in most leagues. Goff definitely went undrafted in some leagues, as did Purdy in some leagues, depending on the size of it. But standard 10 or 12 team quarterback leagues, 8 of these guys.
Yeah, and just drafted. Not far after this list would be Nick Mullins and Easton Stick, who were both 18 plus.
The stick man.
Yeah, the way we scored. So, going back to Tampa Bay, Green Bay.
And we still have Jalen Hurts to play tonight, and Jalen Hurts has been good. But again,
Drew Lock could go off against the Eagles defense.
1,000%. I mean, whatever. Josh Allen was bad. No fault of his own. But Josh Allen was bad. Number of guys are injured. Mahomes is bad. Again, fantasy-wise.
Yeah, and we're just missing everybody. When you look at it right now, no Joe Burrow, no Justin Herbert. Like, the amount of season-ending injuries this year has been insane.
It's true. But Fields didn't have a great game. Trevor Lawrence didn't have a great game. And just in terms of guys that were drafted among the top 8 quarterbacks.
Baker Mayfield also
Dak had a bad game.
Another quarterback who wasn't drafted in the top 8. And I think that, he'll be a viable starter next week against the Jags defense, which is really struggling at the moment. Baker had a tough month. I think he was dealing maybe with an ankle injury that he'd had in Indianapolis, but certainly looks all the way back. And that team is rolling at the moment. And then on the other side, Jordan Love was able to get his numbers, but that team's heading in the wrong direction. Jayden Reed, the big story of the skill position players.
Him and Dontavian Wicks. Dontavian Wicks had a nice little game. I do too. I think he replaces Dobbs next year, Romeo Dobbs next year. So we like that as well. 3 of the last 4 games for Jayden Reed, just as long as we're talking about him. He's had a 22% target share, now 17 fantasy points in back-to-back games. They play the Panthers next week. That's at Carolina, which is not a great matchup. The Panthers' defense has been pretty good, especially in the secondary. So not a great matchup. Jordan Love gets you there, but did not look the part. It was a better fantasy performance than NFL performance. And to your point about Baker Mayfield, good for Baker.
Yeah.
This was a big win for him. First 3 drives of the second half were all touchdown passes. Now, some of them he got help, the David Moore one, but whatever. It's still all looks the same in the box score. He played well. I was surprised to find out the stat, but he had a perfect quarterback rating, and he's only the second guy ever to have that at Lambeau.
Yeah.
It's him and Aaron Rodgers. One game that Aaron Rodgers had. It's
contract year. Good for Baker.
Good for Baker.
Yeah, he'll probably be back.
And you know what's interesting is if he leads the Bucs to the playoffs, and I think he's going to.
Yeah, me too.
I think he was viewed as a stopgap measure for Tampa Bay. He's on a 1-year deal. Just we need a starting quarterback. You're a starting quarterback.
He's got to be the guy next year. If he closes like this and they win the division, he was a number 1 pick in the draft. He has pedigree, and he's had really good seasons in the past. He's been banged up, bounced around, weird scenarios. He's on the Rams last year. He's on the Rams, leading 99
the Panthers to the Rams. Panthers were a mess. Rams, he played okay there, but he just gotten there.
Yep. I think he's the guy.
I don't think they have a lot of confidence in Kyle Trask. They're not going to pick early enough to get a guy. Maybe they draft somebody developmentally, but they're not going to be able to be in with a franchise guy. And so, Baker leads them to the playoffs and saved Todd Bowles' job.
Yeah.
I don't know how you go away from Baker next year.
Agreed.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully, respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.